Hello, it's Molly Reamer with Bridges Grove and 30 Days of Goddess with a flip through video of my April prayer book. And this prayer book, I already shared a few pages from the first part of it in my extra video about maintaining a prayer book practice while traveling. So I'm going to skip past those pages so you don't have to relook at them again. But there's an additional video about keeping a prayer book while traveling that covers the first pages with the extra kind of stuff that I did. In this particular prayer book, I reinforced the inside cover with a greeting card that I got from a charity. And then I had colored this paper doll, which was a Ukraine fundraiser of unusual kind. And this paper doll is really supposed to be a jointed doll, but I just cut her out and glued her together. You can use little tiny brads to make her move, and I just made her like this because I knew she was going to accompany me in my book. And that was to it was a donation, but it was also to kind of carry the Ukrainian people with me in my heart during this prayer book. And then I put in the Fool card from Shadowscape Tarot because I really was sensing that energy of new beginnings, the Fool setting forth on a path of adventure with an open heart and new eyes, so to speak. And so that's why I put that card in there. And I'm actually going to leave it in there. I'm not going to take it back out. Some things are tricky to do one-handed, and putting a paper doll back into a little pocket is one of those. The pocket was on one of our places that we stayed on our trip. They gave us chocolate chip cookies every afternoon, and the cookies came in these little bags, and I thought, I know a prayer book pocket when I saw one, so I kept one of the bags from the cookie and made a pocket with it. Crow feather and a seabird feather to use as a bookmark. And then what did I use for the back? Oh, I think this was a greeting card too. I guess I was in a greeting card kind of mood. I once more did not end up filling out my mood tracker from Kelly Lincoln of Dancing Goddess Dolls. I still love them and think they're great. And for May, I showed this in a separate video, but for May, I decided to add the mood tracker to the front of my book instead, because I really think that will help me revisit it. I fill out the moon wheel every day, and I think what I'm going to do is fill out the mood tracker the next morning. And I think that's why I don't get back to it, because it's more of a nighttime thing for me. And so my prayer books usually take place in the morning, and so I don't necessarily revisit much at night. I left a couple of little notes in my pockets. These pockets usually are filled with things, stencils, extra stickers, extra cards, etc. And then at the end of the month, I move those out and transfer them into the next book or into a box to use in the future. So, first pages, as I noted, were from traveling in Virginia. So I'm going to skip those because I already covered them. I noticed I'd left out some of my words, and I went back and added those later. I don't always put the word on the page, but last month I did enjoy doing that, and I've carried that over into May as well. This particular book I ended up putting several actual shells in, so it got very fat. Look at that, so fat. But that was fun for me. So a lot of the pages were actually from the trip. And then we got back home, and the word happened to be collect, and it was like, yes, I do need to recollect myself, or collect my energy back. So I used all these little collecting looking images for it. As I've mentioned in past books, I don't necessarily directly connect the images to the word. I pretty much just create the page as I am moved and inspired to, but it often really does connect, sometimes unconsciously, really. And this little journal page was from Amy Cesari of Coloring Book of Shadows. I printed out some of my own daily affirmation cards and put them in the pocket. Plum Blossom. Coloring page from Joni Ray of Tales of a Kitchen Witch, and a sticker as a patron perk from her as well. I don't always color the coloring pages completely, but I do have fun when I get to. These stickers come from Water of Whimsy. I'm one of their patrons on Patreon, and so that's one of the bonuses. The Shadowscape Tarot I broke up and sent out to the Goddess Magic Circle expansion level in our Patreon community. That's patreon.com/Bridget'sGrove. And I had 2 separate decks that I had broken up, so I'm not sure who necessarily got the Shadowscape ones versus the other deck that I sent out. I think I still have a lot of Shadowscape ones left. So if you didn't get one of these before, you may be seeing one in your future, members of that community. This art card was from Joni Ray, Tales of a Kitchen Witch as well. And as I've mentioned in past videos, I do really enjoy the collaborative sort of sensation I get by using the work of other creative people in my prayer books. It kind of brings something in that feels really vibrant and alive and communal. And that's from Water of Whimsy as well. Magazine images. My daughter does little doodles of dragons, so I snagged that one out of the trash. If she'd used the back of my sticker. Oh, actually, that's just a loose sticker. Mushrooms, because I can't resist them, but she'd used the back of a sticker to do the little dragon drawing. This was about Rosemary from, I believe, from Warts and Cunning. I think I covered up the attribution on the bottom, but I believe that's where that's from. A page from Joni that I did not end up finishing coloring, and that's okay. Got my driver's license renewed on this day, so I put my temporary one in the pocket. I am now Real ID compliant. And my daughter did that as well. That was scrap doodle, and she was throwing it away, and I was like, wait a second, I can use that. Some more little printouts from my own things. For May, I made a set of colored ones and then got them printed at Staples so they could be more colorfully used. This card came from Fiona Beth of Global Village Witch from her new Symbol Seekers Oracle. So she sent that out, part of her Patreon community, and she sent that card out and I put it in here. Little mushroom tag, because I spent so much time looking for mushrooms this month. Mushrooms always emerge as a theme in April for me, and then back again in August. This is from Amanda Fall of the Phoenix Soul, and this card too. This day we had a tiny little Willendorf circle that I've been meeting with, and so I wrote down some of the things that we had talked about, some of the prompts that we talked about during our circle. I added those to this little coloring image that Amanda had sent to me. And then this was our prompt or our theme from that circle. It was one of the discussion questions, journal prompts, etc. I will be tender with my heart. And then I stencil all around it with the stencils I'd sent out with the patron kits. And that was super fun. I really enjoyed doing that, and took a long time, but it was fun. Another little jar tag. That was a card from Fiona as well. And my kids are really into Squishmallows lately, so they got Squishmallow stickers, and they gave me some. And then I was experimenting with this pastel technique where you use like a piece of makeup cotton to brush pigment onto the page instead of touching the chalks, and I really thought that was great. My lilacs are in bloom, so I pressed one of those in there, and that is done with the chalk too. You can't see the color that great right now, but I was really enchanted with it. And so this page, I did a complete mandala from our patron kits using the chalks, and the color is staying pretty good. That's part of the brushing it on with the makeup cotton like that, is that it kind of embeds it into the fibers of the page. However, I then didn't want to write over it. I put it down thinking I'll just write my new prayer for the day over this, and then I didn't want to. I wanted to kind of leave it of its own. So I had this Blue Jay piece of art from a magazine, Audubon Society magazine, in here already. We've been watching the birds a lot this year. And so I went ahead and I typed the poem that I'd written. Oops. Tiny. I wrote it on the back of an envelope, and then I typed it up tiny, and the affirmations that I usually write over here on the side, I made into a little set of cards. And then I tucked the cards into my envelope for the day as well. And that felt better than writing over it. But in the future, I'm not going to do something on this page that I don't want to write over, because it's important to me that I have the art space and I have the writing space. And my writing, as you have noticed, is never like tidy, fancy, or pretty. This is the pretty side. This is the writing side. And I feel good about that. I know that's not what works for everybody, but that feels good to me. This was a day where I had not a lot of time to work on a page. So I just kind of plopped some stuff down there. Still felt good. Dogwood flower. This card is, I was doing the chalks again, and then I had torn up some pieces from a Sunlight on Cedar book that I'm still working through. That was a proof copy, and so I'm tearing up some of the older poems. And then, since April had 30 days and not 31, I always make all the books with 31 pages so that they can be used at any time, and you don't feel like you have the wrong book if you're in a month with 31 days and then it has 30. So I just make all of them have 31, even though I call my offering 30 Days of Goddess. The 30 Days of Goddess is, a metaphor for daily practice, or a conceptualization of daily practice, but it also is that nice container of, this isn't eternity, this is 30 days of Goddess. Anyway, a lot of times it's 31, but I'm not going to change from time to time. 31, 30. And really, for me, at this point, it's been 485 days of Goddess, but 30 days gives you a discrete container. It gives you a context for daily practice, and it emphasizes that notion of daily. So anyway, on the last pages, sometimes you can tear them out if you want it to. You don't have to keep a blank page in there if you don't want to. You can tear it out, you could glue it together, etc. I just opted to fill it up with some extra pieces that I hadn't used otherwise, and so that was fun for me. A little bit more pastel there, another Sunlight on Cedar, extra poems, because I was running out of space. And then that's it. That's the April prayer book. And May over here is underway, which was making me happy. And then I also have a newly formatted logbook for kind of summer themed that has 3 months worth of pages, and it will be available for people who prefer that option. It'll be available in May, but it's kind of intended to be used in June, July, and August. So thanks for being here. Oh, and I'm here in the studio. There's my little Oriole feeder outside. Oops. Got the screen, so it's not focusing very good. But that has been bringing me, those Orioles have been bringing me all kinds of daily joy and magic this month so far. Yay.